Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 43 in Deuteronomy. Today we're going to hear about putting out your own children. So historically, in some cultures, killing your own children was the norm, and we're going to hear about one or two today. It's quite unpalatable. It's referred to, the Lord refers to it as an abominable practice. And so today we're going to try to get our heads around the practice of killing one's own children. It's shocking even to say it, that there are those who kill their own children. All right, let me tell a little story first. So I was on a tour of Iceland a little while ago, and our tour group heard of two cultures, and they were different people groups, and they were going to come together and join. And so they had this meeting about what they were going to decide on for joining together and becoming one people. This is about 1,000 years ago. And one of the stipulations for this unification is that they agreed upon the liberty to put out their own children. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that if they thought it was necessary, they'd take an infant or a helpless person, the most vulnerable, and put them out. Literally, they would put them out into the weather to die. So they would allow the elements or possibly animals to kill them. And they would do this if the people in power, the parents typically, were either economically unsupportable or handicapped, or so they would put out their own children to die. So when our guide explained this, we were at the place where they made this agreement, and so that's why he was talking about it. So when our guide explained this, to our group's great credit, there was this audible gasp of horror throughout our little tour group. So cultures throughout time have been tempted to sacrifice their own children to the altar of worship or inconvenience or self-interest, and to hear of one just 1,000 years ago was shocking and startling. So when I've seen people respond one culture towards another, it's a repulsive idea, particularly if it involves another culture. We'll get to if it involves our own culture. So the Lord warns us about this in Deuteronomy chapter 18. I'm going to start in verse number 9. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, or anyone that practices divination, or tells fortunes, or interprets omens, or is a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord. For these nations which are about to dispossess, listen to fortune tellers and diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. So here's the warning. The Lord says you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of the nations that you're going to displace. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, or anyone who practices the divination practices. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord is driving out the people before you. So they're guilty of this, and the Lord does not want you to imitate them or learn from them. So in Deuteronomy 18, we hear of a culture that offers their own children up in worship. They sacrifice the life of their own children. So I wonder if God assessed our current culture and how we treat the newborn or the preborn. Could we righteously stand before him without blemish under the umbrella of what he has said here in Deuteronomy? Would he call what we do because of worship or handicap or inconvenience or economics, would he call what we do an abomination? Would he grieve the practices that we do in our nation and other nations as well today? So we will not remain blameless if this continues, would be the parallel. So we see here the sanctity of life come forth. So it's the job of the Israelites to protect the lives of the innocent among them. So I can't imagine that this passage is not a call for us to think about protecting the vulnerable among us, children, infants, elderly, and of course, the not yet born. So I think this has something to say regarding abortion. It sheds some light as to how God may feel about this. Remember, all life is a gift from God, and therefore all life is deserving of our love and our protection. and likely then it has words to say about abortion, infanticide, and euthanasia. All right. So let me say that many millions of people have been involved in this practice. The approval, the root causes, and few perhaps in our culture today are without sin with regards to this. So here's the bad news of the Bible. The bad news is that we have all grieved God so horribly, and maybe in this regard, that help had to come, and justice had to be paid. And Jesus needed to come and is available to give grace where it is not due. That's to you and me. So innocent Jesus is available to all those who have hurt the innocent. Let me say that again. You can write that down. Innocent Jesus is available to all those who have hurt the innocent. Therefore, let's consider the preborn, let's consider abortion, and let's consider him today, the one, the innocent Jesus, who can help us with perhaps the guilt we have for harming the innocent. Thanks for listening.